A very good morning, students. Today we are going to study class 11th Hornbill book, chapter 8, Silk Road. This is written by Nick Middleton. Let us see the brief introduction of this chapter. This story is written by Nick Middleton. This chapter is about the narrator's journey from slopes of Rao to Mount Kailash to complete the Kora. To bid him farewell, Lamo gave him a long-sleeved sheepskin coat. He hired Satan's car for his journey and took Daniel along to escort him to Darchan. Students, Kora means एक परिक्रमा, to move around a mountain. Okay, so writer went to Mount Kailash for Kora, and what difficulties, what experiences he felt on his way to Mount Kailash, that is described in this chapter. Okay, a flawless half moon floated in a perfect blue sky in the morning. We said our goodbyes, extended banks of cloud like long French loaves, cloud pink, as the sun emerged to splash the distant mountain tops with a rose tinted blush. Now that we were leaving Rao, Lamos said she wanted to give me a farewell present. One evening, I had told her through Daniel that I was heading towards Mount Kailash to complete the Kora, and she had said that I ought to get some warmer clothes. After ducking back into her tent, she emerged carrying one of the long sleeved sheepskin coats that all the men wore. Satan sized me up as we clambered into his car. Yes, he declared. Drogba, sir. Lodge means bread shaped and baked in one piece, which is usually sliced before being eaten. Kora is a meditation performed by Buddhist believers. Ducking back, going inside and then coming out. Let us see the explanation. As the writer was heading towards Mount Kailash to complete the Kora in the morning, he witnessed a beautiful half moon in the sky. The clouds looked like French bread, which glowed pink because of the sun, which spread a splash of rays on the mountain tops. It looked like a rose tinted blush. Rao and Lamo wanted to give him a farewell gift one evening when the protagonist means जो writer passed a message to Lamo through Daniel. She gave him a long-sleeved sheepskin coat which is meant for men. Shaitan looked at him attentively while he climbed into his car. He declared yes and said Drogba to him, which means Kora in the region of Tibet. We took a shortcut to get off the Chengteng. Shaitan knew a route that would take us southwest, almost directly towards Mount Kailash. It involved crossing several fairly high mountain passes. He said, but no problem, sir. He assured her, if there is no snow, what was the likelihood of that? I asked, not knowing, sir, until we get there. Sized me up means to look at someone attentively. Clambered means move or climb in an awkward way. Drogba means shepherd. They took a shortcut to cut off the Chengteng. His driver knew the short route which took him to the southwest towards Mount Kailash. They had to pass high mountain passes. Satan told him that they can reach the destination only if there is no snow, and they can't know that until they will reach there. From the gently rolling hills of Rao, the shortcut took us across vast open plains with nothing in them except a few gazelles that would look up from nibbling the arid pastures and frown before bounding away into the void. Further on, where the plains became more stony than grassy, A great herd of wild ass came into view. Gazelles means an African or Asian mammal with large eyes that moves quickly and hoops. Means hidden. Nibbling means take a small bite from. Arid means having little or no rain. Means dry. Pastures means land covered with grass. Frown means to disapprove of something. The route was filled with open plains in Rao where gazelles were eating grass from the land, which had little rain and disapproved while hopping back in the void. As they moved forward, a large group of wild asses appeared. Satan told us we were approaching them long before they appeared. Kyang, he said, pointing towards a far off pile of dust. When we drew near, I could see the herd galloping and Masi wheeling and turning in tight formation if they were practicing maneuvers on some predetermined course. Plumes of dust billowed into crisp, clean air. Bounding means jump, hop, bounce. Wild ass means an animal who have ears shorter than a horse and smaller in size. That is Gade, donkey. Herd, a large group of animal. Galloping means progressing in an uncontrollable manner. And Masi, in a group. Maneuvers means military exercises. Plums means trails. Billowed means filled with air, swelled out. Satan told him that they were approaching the wild asses long before they appeared there. Satan pointed out a huge pile of dust which he called Kyang in his local language. When they drew nearer to the destination, they could see a large group of animals coming in a fast and uncontrollable manner, like they were doing military exercises. Trails of dust filled with air. As he started to push up once more from the rocky wilderness, we passed solitary rock tending their flocks, sometimes men, sometimes women. These well wrapped figures would pause and stare at our car, occasionally waving as we passed. When the track took us close to their animals, the sheep would take evasive action, veering away from the speeding vehicle. Wilderness means wasteland. Solitary means private. Loneliness. Akela. Flock means a group of birds. Evasive means slippery. Veering means to change direction suddenly. As they moved past the rocky area, they came across private koras nurturing their group of birds. Both men and women stared at their car and some also waved at them. As they moved closer to the animals, the sheep would take a slippery path and would suddenly move into another direction away from the car. We passed nomads, dark tents, pitched in splendid isolation, usually with a huge black dog, a Tibetan Mastiff, standing guard. These beasts would cock their great big heads when they became aware of our approach and fix us in their sights. As we continued to draw closer, they would explode into action, speeding directly towards us like a bullet from a gun and nearly as fast. Shaggy means bushy or hairy. They witnessed means they saw nomads' tent which were dark in complete isolation and a big black Tibetan dog standing as their guard. They fixed their gaze on the approaching car and ran behind it as a bullet fired from a gun. These saggy monsters, blacker than the darkest night, usually wore bright red collars and barked furiously with massive jaws. They were completely fearless of our vehicle, shooting straight into our path, causing Satan to brake and swerve. The dog would make change for 100 meters or so because edging off, having seen us, of the property. It wasn't difficult to understand why ferocious Tibetan mastiffs became popular in China's imperial courts as hunting dogs, brought along the Silk Road in ancient times as tribute from Tibet. Swaw means changing direction suddenly. Ferocious means cruel or violent. Mastiffs, a dog who is a strong breed with dropping ears and shaggy ears. Those bushy creatures were blacker than the normal black color, who wore a bright red collar and they barked angrily at them with big jaws. Those dogs were fearless and were running towards the car, causing Chetan to apply brakes and change direction suddenly. The dogs came after him for 100 meters more and then stopped to watch them go away. These Tibetan Mastiffs became popular in China's royal courts as hunting dogs. They were brought along the Silk Route as tribute in ancient times from Tibet. By now, we could see snow capped mountains gathering on the horizon. We entered a valley where the river was wide and mostly clogged with ice, brilliant white and glinting in the sunshine. The trail hugged its bank, twisting with the meanders as we gradually gained heights and the valley sides closed in. As they pass the area, word meaning glinting means sparkle or twinkle. Meanders means to follow a winding course of a river or road. As they passed the area with bushy Tibetan dogs, they started watching, seeing snow capped mountains. They entered the valley, which was covered with wild river covered with ice, which was private and shiny in the sun. The trek was moving along the river bank as they gained height and the valley was closing in towards him. The turns became sharper and the ride bumpier. Satan now in third gear as we continued to climb. The trek moved away from the icy river, laboring through steeper slopes that spotted big rocks daubed with patches of bright orange lichen. Beneath the rocks, hunks of snow clung on in the near permanent shade. I felt the pressure building up in my ear and held my nose, snorted and cleared them. We struggled round another tight bend and Satan stopped. He had opened his door and jumped out of his seat before I realized what was going on. Snow, said Daniel, as he too exited the vehicle, letting in a breath of cold air as we do so. Daubed means spread a thick sticky substance on a surface carelessly. Lichen means a slow growing plant which grows on wall, trees or rocks. Clung means hold tightly onto something. The driver was driving in third gear while the turns were sharper and the ride got bumpier. Then they moved away from the road which ran along the icy river. It had sharp slopes and big rocks coated with thick sticky orange lichen. Below the rocks were chunks of snow and the rider felt a pressure on his ear. He held his nose and snorted in order to clear them. A sharp turn came again and Satan stopped the car and jumped out of his seat. David too did the same. He exclaimed snow in his excitement. A swath of white stuff lay across the track in front of us, stretching for maybe 15 meters before it petered out and the dirt trail reappeared. The snow continued on either side of us, smoothing the abrupt bank on the upslope side. The bank was too steep for our vehicle to scale, so there was no way round the snow patch. I joined Daniel as the Shaitan stepped on to the uncrusted snow and began to slither and slide forward, stamping his foot from time to time to ascertain how sturdy it was. I looked at my wristwatch. We were at 5,210 meters above sea level. That means a long stripe of land, petered out to diminish gradually and stop. Uncrusted means decorated with a hard surface level. Slither means to move smoothly over a surface. A long track of snow was in front of them, which was about 15 meters long before it diminished and the long dirty track appeared again. The snow was on both sides of them and it was difficult to move the vehicle in that condition. The writer joined Daniel as Satan tried to move smoothly over the snowy surface by stamping his foot on the surface. The writer saw his wristwatch. They were 5,210 meters above sea level. The snow did not look too deep to me, but the danger wasn't its depth. Daniel said, so much as its icy top layer, if we slip off, the car could turn over, he suggested. As we saw, Satan grabbed handfuls of dirt and flinged them across the frozen surface. We both pitched in, and when the snow was spread with soil, Daniel and I stayed out of the vehicle to lighten Satan's load. He backed up and drove towards the dirty snow, eased the car onto its icy surface, and slowly drove its length without apparent difficulty. Fling means throw. The snow was deep beneath its icy top surface. Daniel said that if they turned their car over, they could slip off. Satan grabbed dirt and threw it across the frozen surface. They pitched in and helped Satan until the snow with soil appeared and it loaded the tension of Satan. He drove back the car and slowly drove to the more comfortable side of the road. 10 minutes later, we stopped at another blockage. Not good, sir, Satan announced as he jumped out again to survey the scene. This time he decided to try and drive around the snow. The slope was steep and studded with major rocks, but somehow Satan negotiated them with four-wheel drive vehicle lurching from one obstacle to the next. In so doing, he cut off one of the hairpin bends, regaining the trail further up where the snow had not drifted. Lurching means listing. After 10 minutes, Satan stopped again as another obstacle. Obstacle means difficulty. Again, difficulty came in front of them. They drove around the snowy track, which was steep and filled with rocks. He further drove from the hairpin bend, moving on the higher side where the snow was still there. I checked my watch again as we continued to climb. In the bright sunshine, we crept past 5,400 meters and my head began to throb horribly. I took gulps from my water bottle, which is supposed to help a rapid ascent. Throb means pulsate, means बजना एक तरीके से आप बोल सकते हो. The writer checked his watch again. While he was climbing the mountain in the bright sunlight, they moved up to 5,400 meters height and his head began to pulsate again. He had a few sips of water from his bottle, which helped him to climb the slope. We finally reached the top of the pass at 5,515 meters. It was marked by a large cairn of rocks festooned with white silk scarves and ragged prayer flags. We all took a turn round the cairn. It is in a clockwise direction, as is the tradition, and Satan checked the tires on his vehicle. He stopped at the petrol tank and partially unscrewed the top, which emitted a loud hiss. The lower atmospheric pressure was allowing the fuel to expand. It sounded dangerous to me. Maybe, sir. Satan laughed, but no smoking. Ascent means climb on an upward slope. Garden of rocks, the pile of stones on the top of the mountain, especially where someone is buried. Festooned means decorated. They reached at 5,515 meters and a large pile of stone was decorated with white silk scarves and some dirty prayer flags. They took a turn round that stone in a clockwise direction as in the tradition and the driver checked the tires of his vehicle. He stopped at the petrol tank and unscrewed its top which made a loud hiss noise as the pressure was making the fuel expand. The driver told him maybe it is dangerous but told him not to smoke around there. My headache soon cleared as we careered down the other side of the pass. It was 2 o'clock by the time we stopped for lunch. We ate hot noodles inside a long canvas tent, part of a work camp erected beside a dry salt lake. The plateau is pockmarked with salt flats and brackish lakes, vestiges of the Tethys Ocean which bordered Tibet before the great continent collision that lifted it skyward. This one was a hive of activity, men with pickaxes and shovels trudging back and forth in their long sheepskin coats and salt encrusted boots. All wore sunglasses against the glare as a steady stream of a blue trucks emerged from the blindingly white lake laden with piles of salt. Career down means sinking the slope. Salt flats, thatched roof covered with snow. Writers had cleared as they descended down the slope. It was 2 o'clock when they stopped for lunch at a long canvas tent beside the dry salt lake. They had not noodles, they had hot noodles. The plateau was disfigured and the lake was filled with salty water and thatched roof covered with snow. It was traces of extinct Tethys Ocean which used to border Tibet before the collision of the continent. Few men were working there with pickaxes and shovels. They were wearing sunglasses to minimize the glare coming from one blue truck loaded with pile of salt, salt uncrusted boots and long sheepskin coat. By late afternoon we had reached the small town of Ho, back on the main east-west highway that followed the old trade route from Lhasa to Kashmir. Daniel, who was returning to Lhasa, found a ride in a truck so Satan and I bade him farewell outside a tire repair shop. We had suffered two punctures in quick succession on the drive down from the Salt Lake and Satan was eager to have them fixed since they left him with no spares. Besides, the second tire he had changed had been replaced by one that was as smooth as my bald head. Career down means sinking the slope. Salt flats, thatched roof covered with snow. Bald means ganja. Okay. By the late afternoon, they reached Ho town and back to the east-west highway, which was an old route from Lhasa to Kashmir. Daniel found a ride as he was on his way back to Lhasa. Both of them bid him farewell at tire repair shop. Their cars suffered two punctures on the way from the Salt Lake, so Satan was eager to get them fixed. They had no spare tire left, and the second tire, which he changed, was replaced by a smooth tire just like the head of the writer. Hor was a grim, miserable place. There was no vegetation whatsoever, just dust and rocks. Liberally scattered with years of accumulated refuse, which was unfortunate given that the town sat on the shore of Lake Mansarovar, Tibet's most venerated stretch of water. Ancient Hindu and Buddhist cosmology pinpoints Mansarovar as the source of four great Indian rivers The Indus, the Ganges, the Satluj, and the Brahmaputra. Actually, only the Satluj flows from the lake, but the headwaters of the others all rise nearby on the flanks of Mount Kailash. We were within striking distance of the great mountain, and I was eager to forge ahead. Grey means ugly or grey. Accumulated means gathered. Venerated means respected, holy. Cosmology means science about the origin and development of the universe. Hor was an ugly and miserable place which had no vegetation and just dust and rocks. It is scattered with gathered refuse, and it was luckless, unlucky that it was on the shore of Lake Mansarovar, which is Tibet's most respected water. According to the ancient Hindu and Buddhist cosmologists, it consists of four Indian rivers: the Indus, the Ganges, the Satluj, and the Brahmaputra. Satluj River flows from its lake and other three rivers rise near the sides of Mount Kailash. They were in a remarkable distance, and he was eager to build ahead. But I had to wait. Satan told me to go and drink some tea in Horse Only Cafe, which, like all the other buildings in town, was constructed from badly pelted concrete and had three broken windows. The good view of the lake through one of them helped to compensate for the drought. The writer waited for Satan while having some tea. Flanks means sides. Forge means put together, build up. The writer waited for Satan while having some tea at Horse Cafe, which was constructed badly from painted concrete and three broken windows, although it had a good view of the lake. I was served by a Chinese youth in military uniform who spread the grease around on my table with a filthy rag before bringing me a glass and a thermos of tea. Half an hour later, Satan relieved me from my solitary confinement, and we drove past a lot more rocks and rubbish westward out of town towards Mount Kailash. Filthy means dirty, rag means scrap clothes, solitary means private, confinement means detention, captivity means kaid. The writer was served by a Chinese boy who was wearing a military uniform. He spread the grease around the table with a dirty cloth and brought him a glass and a thermos of tea. Satan freed him from his private detention, and they started their journey ahead, passing from more rocks and rubbish. My experiences whole came as a stark contrast to accounts I had read of earlier travelers' first encounters with Lake Mansarovar. Ekai Kawaguchi, a Japanese monk who had arrived there in 1900, was so moved by the sanctity of the lake that he burst into tears. A couple of years later, the whole hallowed water had a similar effect on Samanhidi, a Swede who wasn't prone to sentimental outbursts. Stark means plain, sanctity means pure, holy. The writer's experience was opposite from what he read on the traveler's first encounters of the town. Ekai Kawaguchi was a Japanese monk who arrived in the town in 1900, and he was so moved with the purity of the lake that he cried. After a few years, similar effect was on Semenhidi, a Swedish who didn't have such an emotional outburst. It was dark by the time we finally left again after 10:30 p.m. We drew up outside a guest house in Darchan for what turned out to be another troubled night, kicking around in the open air rubbish dump that passed for the town of Horde had set off my cold once more, though if truth be told, it had never quite disappeared with my herbal tea. One of my nostrils was blocked again, and as I lay down to sleep, I wasn't convinced that the other would provide me with sufficient oxygen. My voice told me I was at 4,760 meters. It wasn't much higher than Rao, and there I had been gasping for oxygen several times every night. I had grown accustomed to these nocturnal disturbances by now, but they still scared me. Nocturnal means night time. When they resumed their journey from Hor, it was dark at that time. After 10:30 p.m., they decided to stay in a guest house in Dachan, which turned out to be a difficult night for him. The rubbish dump in Hor made his cold worse, and herbal tea also didn't help him. One of his nostrils was blocked as he lay on the bed. He wasn't getting sufficient oxygen, and he checked his watch. He was at 4,760 meters above sea level. The height was not more than Rao, but he would be out of breath several times a night. He was so familiar to these nights time disturbances, and he was scared this time. Tired and hungry, I started breathing through my mouth after a while. I switched to single nostril power, which seemed to be admitting enough oxygen, but just as I was drifting off, I woke up abruptly. Something was wrong. My chest felt strangely heavy, and I sat up, a movement that cleared my nasal passages almost instantly and relieved the feeling in my chest. Curious, I thought. Let us see the word meaning. Abruptly means suddenly, and instantly means at the same time. Relieved means चैन की सांस लेना. Curious means strange. Okay. He started breathing from his mouth. He was tired and hungry. He switched back to breathing from single nostril, and as soon as he was about to sleep, he would wake up shortly. He was not feeling well as his chest felt heavy. He sat up and it cleared its nasal passages. He thought it was strange. I lay down and tried again. Same result. I was on the point of disappearing into the land of Nod when something told me not to. It must have been those emergency electrical impulses again, but this was not the same as on previous occasions. This time I wasn't gasping for breath. I was simply not allowed to go to sleep. Did I Gasping means breathlessness. The writer tried again by laying back on the bed. The same thing happened. He was in the land of signals where something told him not to do it. Means he was going to speak, he wanted to sleep, but something told him not to sleep. He wasn't able to go to sleep this time. When he was sitting up, it made him feel better as he could breathe properly and his chest felt light. The opposite happened as soon as he lay down. He held himself up against the wall, but he wasn't able to relax. He was afraid to sleep now. A voice inside him told him that he might die if he tried to sleep, so he stayed awake all night. Sitting up once more immediately made me feel better. I could breathe freely and my chest felt fine. But as soon as I lay down, my sinuses filled and my chest was odd. I tried popping myself upright against the wall, but now I couldn't manage to relax enough to drop off. I couldn't put my finger on the reason, but I was afraid to go to sleep. A little voice inside me was saying that if I did, I might never wake up again, so I stayed awake all night. Propping means to hold up. When he was sitting up, it made him feel better, as he could breathe properly and his chest felt light. The opposite happened as soon as he lay down. He held himself up against the wall, but he wasn't able to relax. He was afraid to sleep now. A voice inside him told him that he might die if he would try to sleep, so he stayed awake all night. Shaitan took me to the Darchan Medical College the following morning. The medical college at Darchan was new and looked like a monastery from the outside, with a very solid door that led into a large courtyard. We found the consulting room, which was dark and cold and occupied by a Tibetan doctor who wore none of the paraphernalia that I had been expecting. No white coat, he looked like any other Tibetan with a thick pullover and a woolly hat. When I explained my sleepless symptoms and my sudden aversion to lying down, he shot me a few questions while feeling the veins of my wrist. Paraphernalia means miscellaneous articles. Satan took Ryder to Darchan Medical College the next morning. It was new and looked like a monastery with a door which led to a large courtyard. They went to a dark and cold consulting room filled by a Tibetan doctor who wore nothing kind if a random article which he accepted, which he hoped, which he expected. He was wearing a thick pullover and a woolly hat. He asked him few questions while filling his wheels. It is cold, he said finally through Satan. A cold and the effects of altitude, I'll give you something for it. I asked him if he thought I would recover enough to be able to do the Kora. Oh yes, he said, you will be fine. He told the driver that it is cold and he had an effect due to cold and altitude change. He gave him some medicine and reassured him that he will be fine to do the Kora. I walked out of the medical college clutching a brown envelope stuffed with 15 screws of paper. I had a 5-day course of Tibetan medicine, which I started right away. I opened an after breakfast package and found it contained a brown powder that I had to take with hot water. It tasted just like cinnamon. The contents of the lunchtime and bedtime packages were less obviously identifiable. Both contained small spherical brown pellets. They looked suspiciously like sheep dung, but of course I took them. That night, after my first full day's course, I slept very soundly like a log, not a dead man. Pellets means shots. The Tibetan doctor gave him a 5-day course. He came out with a brown envelope which had 15 screws of paper. After having breakfast, he opened the after breakfast package which had a brown powder which he had to take with hot water. It tasted like cinnamon and the lunchtime and bedtime packages were nearly the same. They looked like sheep dung, both had small spherical brown packages. After taking the full day medicine, he slept peacefully that night. Once he saw that I was going to live, Satan left me to return to Lhasa. As a Buddhist, he told me he knew that it didn't really matter if I passed away, but he thought it would be bad for business. Satan left him in Darchan when he came to know that he is going to be fine. He told him as a Buddhist that if he had passed away, it would not matter, but it would be bad for business. Darchan did not look so horrible after a good night's sleep. It was still dusty, partially derelict, and punctuated by heaps of rubble and refuse. But the sun shone brilliantly in a clear blue sky, and the outlook across the plain to the south gave me a vision of the Himalayas, commanded by a huge snow-capped mountain, Gulla Mandhata, with just a wisp of clouds suspended over its summit. Derelict means ruined, heaped means lots, wisp a small amount of something. Next day, the Darchan wasn't looking so bad. It was dusty, partially ruined, and had loads of rubble and refuse everywhere. The brightly shining sun in the blue sky gave him the vision of Himalayas. Gulla Mandata, he was able to see a little bit with clouds suspended over it. The town had a couple of rudimentary general stores selling Chinese cigarettes, soaps, and other basic provisions, as well as the usual string of prayer flags. In front of one, man gathered in the afternoon for a game of pool, the battered table looking supremely incongruous in the open air, while nearby women were uh, washed their long hair in the icy water of a narrow brook that babbled down past my guest house. Darchan felt relaxed and unhurried, but for me it came with a significant drawback. There were no pilgrims. Rudimentary means basic or primary. Incongruous means strange. Brook, a small stream. Darchan had some basic general stores selling Chinese soaps, cigarette and string of prayer flags. Every afternoon men would gather for a game of pool. They would sit round a shabby table, looking strange in the open air, while women washed their hair in iced water of a small stream which flowed all the way to his guest house. Darchan had no pilgrims, which were a drawback for him. He was told I had been told that at the height of the pilgrimage season, the town was bustling with visitors. Many brought their own accommodations, enlarging the settlements round its edges as they set up their tents, which spilled down on the plain. I had timed my arrival on the beginning of the season, but it seemed I was too early. He was told that in the peak season of pilgrimage, this town was filled with visitors. Some brought their own accommodations such as tents which were set up in the plains. He felt that he had arrived at that place way too early. One day, while he was thinking about the options while having a glass of tea at the Archon's only cafe. One afternoon, I sat pondering my options over a glass of tea in Darchan's only cafe. After a little consideration, I concluded they were severely limited. Clearly, I hadn't much progress with my self help program on positive thinking. The writer felt that he had arrived at that place way too early. One day, while he was thinking about his options while having a glass of tea at Darchan's only cafe, he concluded that there are limited options for him as he made little progress on the self help program on positive. In my defense, it had not been easy with all sleeping difficulties, but however I looked at it, I could only wait. The pilgrimage trail was well trodden, but I didn't fancy doing it alone. The Kora was seasonal because parts of the route were liable to blockage my snow. By snow. It had no idea. I had no idea whether or not the snow had cleared, but I wasn't encouraged by the chunks of dirty ice that still clung to the banks of Darchan's brook. Since Satan had left, I hadn't come across anyone in Darchan with enough English to answer even this most basic question. Well trodden means much frequented by travelers. He was having difficulty in sleeping, but hadn't made it easy for him. He had no option other than to wait until the peak season of pilgrimage. The trail was much frequented by the travelers. He could do Kora alone, but it was a seasonal season because of the route blockage by snow. He had no idea if the snow was cleared and he was not feeling good, but dirty ice that still resided on the banks of the Archan's small stream. He had been facing communication problems since Satan left. No one knew much English to answer his basic questions. Until that is, I met Nobu. The cafe was small, dark, and cavernous, with a long metal stove that ran down the middle. The walls and ceiling were wreathed in sheet of multicolored plastic of The striped variety, broad blue, red, and white, that is made into stout, voluminous shopping bags sold all over China and in many other countries of Asia as well as Europe. As such, plastic must rate as one of China's most successful exports along the Silk Road today. Cavernous means vast, writhed means twisted, stout means firm. He met Norbu in a cafe which was small, dark, and vast, with long metal stove. The walls and ceilings were twisted in multicolored plastic sheets of different colored stripes. It was made into a farm and big shopping bags which were sold over China in many other countries of Asia and Europe. Plastic was China's successful export along the Silk Route. The cafe had a single window, beside which I had taken up position so that I could see the pages of my notebook. I had also brought a novel with me to help pass the time. Norbu saw my book when he came in and asked with a gesture if he could sit opposite me at my rickety table. You English? He inquired. After he had ordered tea, I told him I was, and we struck up a conversation. Rickety means unstable, means tutti frutti, broken. The cafe had only one window which he would take so that he could see his notebook clearly, and he would also bring a novel with him to pass time. Norbu once saw his book and asked if he could sit opposite him as his unstable table. He asked him if he is English after he ordered tea. He told him that he was English. The writer guessed that he must not be a local as he was wearing a wind cheater and a metal rimmed spectacles which were of western style. I didn't think he was from those parts because he was wearing a wind cheater and metal rimmed spectacles of western style. He was Tibetan, he told me, but worked in a building at the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. In the Institute of Ethnic Literature, I assumed he was on some sort of field work. Yes or no, he said. I have come to do the Kora. My heart jumped. Nobu had been writing academic papers about the Kailash Kora and its importance in various works of Buddhist literature for many years. He told me, but he had never actually done it himself. The writer guessed that he must not be a local as he was wearing a wind cheater and a metal rimmed spectacles, which were of Western style. Nobu was a Tibetan who worked in Beijing at the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences in the Institute of Ethnic Literature. Norbu told him that he had come here to do Kora. The writer was happy. Norbu was writing some academic papers on Kailash Kora and its importance in various Buddhist literature work. He had never done the Kora. When the time came for me to tell him what brought me to Darchen, his eyes lit up. We could be a team, he said excitedly. Two academics who have escaped from the library. Perhaps my positive thinking strategy was working after all. Norbu was excited when he got to know why the writer was at Darchan. He said they could be a team who are two academists who escaped from the library. The writer believed his positive thinking strategy was working. My initial relief at meeting Norbu, who was also staying in the guest house, was tempered by the realization that he was almost as ill equipped as I was for the pilgrimage. He kept telling me how fat he was and how hard it was going to be, very high up. He kept reminding me so tiresome to walk. He wasn't really a practicing Buddhist, it transpired. But he had enthusiasm and he was, of course, Tibetan. Tiresome means dull and boring. Transpired means leaked. Nobu was also staying at a guest house just like him, and Norbu was an ill equipped like him. Norbu kept telling him that he was too dull, boring, and tired to walk, and he was fat. Norbu was not a practicing Buddhist, but he was an enthusiast. Although I had originally envisaged taking the trek in the company of devout believers, on reflection I decided that perhaps Norbu would turn out to be the ideal companion. He suggested we hire some yak to carry our luggage, which I interpreted as a good sign, and he had no intention of prostrating himself all round the mountain. Not possible, he cried, collapsing across the table in hysterical laughter. It wasn't his style, and anyway, his tummy was too big. Originally, the writer predicted that the track would be good in a company of any deep believer, but he found Norby to be an ideal partner. He decided to hire some yaks to carry their luggage, and he had no intention of lying down flat all over the mountain. Norbu finally said it is not possible for him because while he collapsed across the table laughing hysterically, his tummy was also very big. Students, this is all. I hope you have understood. This is a little bit big chapter, but if you listen this video twice or thrice, you are able to understand very well. There are some difficult meanings in this, and this is also a travelogue. That's why it is a little bit boring also, but if you understand it with the word meanings, you are able to learn it well. This is all, students. एनविसर्ज मीन्स प्रेडिक्टेड, मीन्स भविष्यवाणी करना, पहले से बोलना, एडवांस में बोलना. डिवोट मीन्स डीप, प्रोस्ट्रेटिंग मीन्स लाइंग डाउन. This is all. I hope you all have understood. Thank you for watching the video.